Hi, boys and girls. Well, through history, there are some pretty famous people. They might have done some amazing things. They might have changed the world in some way, made it better for all of us. One of those people is Johnny Appleseed. No, his name wasn't really Appleseed, but his first name was Johnny. And sometimes there are things that are folk tales, and sometimes there are things that are real stories. This is some folk tale, but it is about a real person. They just made some of the things not quite true. Like, for example, Johnny Appleseed didn't really wear a pot on his head, but one day someone said, "Hey, we can say that he traveled with his pot on his head like a hat." And then the story stuck, and then it seemed like it became true. And it wasn't really true, but it sounds kind of cool. So it stays in the story. Well, let's find out about Johnny Appleseed and decide if some of the things are true and some of the things might be made up, maybe. And it's written by Jody Shepard and illustrated by Mosami Fruclos. Nice. Here we go. Johnny Appleseed. Here's our title page with Johnny as a young boy. He's banging on a pan over here and reading over here, trying to get educated and get some information. Because books can be filled with all kinds of information. This is the story about Johnny Appleseed. With a name like that, you would think he was make-believe. But Johnny Appleseed was a real person who lived more than 200 years ago. So was that a short time ago or a long time ago? You're right. That was a long time ago. That was even back before great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents. It was a sunny fall day in Massachusetts when a boy named Johnny Chapman was born. The baby had cheeks as red and round as apples. So now we know his real name was Johnny Chapman. So that part's real. And they said that his cheeks were red and round like apples. So they were looking for a way to describe how his cheeks looked. Johnny's big sister Elizabeth was happy to have a little brother. The children played together with whatever they could find. And the sun shone and the rain fell, and little Johnny played, and all was well. So he got to play with his sister. Johnny's family got bigger. Johnny and his sister were joined by 10 younger stepbrothers and stepsisters. What a busy, noisy house. So if Johnny was joined by 10 stepbrothers and sisters, and there was he and his sister Elizabeth, that would be 10 plus 2 equals, let's see, 10. I put the big number in my brain, and then I go 11, 12. Oh, 12. Cool. Johnny would go outdoors when he needed quiet time. Sometimes he'd walk along the river. The squishy mud felt good under his feet. Other times he would sit under a tree and read. Yeah, because they said with all those children that the house was noisy. So a quiet place for him was to go outside. Johnny would watch the animals in the wild. The foxes playing in the meadows, the deer dashing through the woods, and the birds soaring high in the wide blue sky. If he found an injured animal, Johnny would take care of it until the creature was well again. So we are learning from the story that Johnny obviously was kind and He seems to like nature by the way that he is observing the animals and the environment. That would kind of make him a biologist. Johnny liked being outside. When he got older, he went to work in the apple orchards, just like his great 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 grandfather long before him. And the sun shone, and the rain fell, and Johnny grew up, and all was well. So he liked working outside, and he's working in the apple orchard. And we know that an orchard is a place where you can grow crops. Johnny learned everything about growing apples. He was happy planting seeds, taking care of the trees, and munching on the delicious fruit. That's great. So he's learning about the farming life. So that's agriculture. Lots of people were moving out west back then. And when Johnny was all grown up, he decided he would go west too. He didn't bring much with him. For a hat, he used his pot. And a burlap sack did just fine for a shirt. And shoes? Oh, why wear shoes when you have two perfectly good feet? So here's that bit of the tale where perhaps they might have stretched the truth a little bit. You might think that maybe he wore bare feet. Maybe he had some kind of foot protection, but we don't know. And a pot for a hat? That would be kind of hard and heavy. But, oh well. Johnny traveled the countryside. The sun kept him warm by the day. The stars made a roof over his head at night. And the rain washed him clean. And the animals kept him company. Now, perhaps he got cleaned by the rain, but I bet he probably also washed in rivers and streams as well. So that part might be a little bit stretched too. Sometimes Johnny would stop and plant apple seeds. As soon as the seedlings grew, he'd sell the small plants to families moving west. And when they got to where they were going, the families planted Johnny's seedlings and grew apple trees of their own. That way they have a food source in the fall. And the tree could maybe provide them with shade in the summertime, and maybe it could give them wood to build with. So an apple tree gives you quite a few resources. Johnny was friends with everyone. Wherever he went, he'd bring seedlings, he'd pitch in with the chores, and share stories of his adventures. So he's a kind and compassionate person, getting along with everybody that he meets. That means he's always going to have plenty of friends, people who will help him out. The seasons passed. Every fall, Johnny gathered seeds from ripe apples. Every spring, he planted the seeds and passed the seedlings on to the settlers. He planted so many apple seeds that before long people started calling him, you guessed it, Johnny Appleseed. And the sun shone, and the rain fell, and the trees filled the land, and all was well. Year after year, Johnny tended his orchards, visited friends and family, and slept under the stars. Because of him, people always had fresh fruit to eat. Because of him, the land grew more beautiful. Johnny Appleseed left behind thousands and thousands of apple trees all across America. Just think, the next apple you eat just may be from an orchard that was first planted by Johnny Appleseed. And the sun shone, and the rain fell, and Johnny's story lives on, and all is well. Thanks, Johnny Appleseed, for sharing your knowledge of apple trees and for sharing the trees and seeds so that we could grow the trees and get apples. So he was helping us get our produce. So when you go to the store and you buy an apple, that comes from an orchard, and somebody has to take care of that orchard. So the money that you pay for your apple in the store goes towards helping the person who grew the apple in the first place. So just think, next time you bite into an apple, you can say, "Thanks, farmer. Thank you for growing this apple for me. I appreciate it." All right, team, go see if you can find a crispy, crunchy, munchy apple.